Hey, what's going on? I'm Keys, host of Sports Vibes TV, and this is another edition of the Knicks Sunday stream. Joined, as always, by my co-host Stephen Fox. Foxy, how's everything with you?
All's well. Shout out to you. Shout out to the chat. Shout out to the SV Nation. I hope all is well. How are you? I'm sorry about your New York Giants yesterday.
Yeah, unfortunately, the Giants took it out yesterday, 38-7. But we definitely overachieved. I wasn't expecting us to get into the second round of the playoffs. So for that, I'm thrilled. It just sucks that we had to lose to the Eagles. You know what I mean? That just adds another little personal stink to it. But other than that, you got to be thrilled with the fact that Sean looks like he's the real deal. Dabs, and also with the way Danny Dimes performed this season, he's going to be back next year. You would assume, and hopefully those guys can put some more weapons around him, and we can see what we can do next season. So
Yeah, he had
definitely
a
not a great way to end, but it is what it is.
and Dan, he had a blistering 135 yards yesterday, so I could see why you're excited about getting him back.
Hey, but he was fresh off beating the brakes off the Minnesota Vikings. So if we can see more of that Danny Dimes, I'll be thrilled with it.
I'm with you. I'm with you.
Yeah,
No
give a
Aaron
shout out.
Rodgers in your Christmas list for next year.
Nah, he's too much drama when it comes to Aaron Rodgers. He's really earned that diva title.
So that means the Jets will get him then. Because
Yeah, more power to him. More power to him. But just want to give a quick shout out to the chat. We got John Talento in chat. Thank you for tuning in. Thank Tanks. Big Chino, he says big ups to Q and Fox. Thank you for tuning in. We appreciate the support. Big Chino says basketball IQ matters. That's a fact. Who else we have? Will Salkin says salute. Thank you for tuning in. Appreciate it. Lily Phillips, Vibe in the Fox. Thank you guys. So here to talk some Knicks, and unfortunately, we're right in the middle of a 3-game losing streak. Foxy, probably the worst game in that stretch was probably the last one we played against the Hawks. Ended up losing that game, going down 139 to 124. Let me just hear some of your thoughts on what you thought went down during the game and your first impressions.
Miss Mitch, I think 23 second chance points, 14 offensive rebounds. It was weird statistically versus other games where we almost won or were close to winning. We lost by 15, but we shot 59% from the field, 45% from threes, 76%, 27 assists, and we lost by 15. And we had other games where we were nowhere near that, and we almost won the game. But yes, but missing Mitch absolutely showed, and that's my fear tonight against Toronto. Last time they also had around 23 second chance points, so we'll see what goes down.
Yeah, you can look at the shot attempts. The Hawks were able to put up 100 shots compared to the Knicks, who I only believe we only able to put up 83. So you can definitely see how the Hawks were able to get those second chance buckets and pretty much beat the brakes off of us in that second half. I mean, to start the game, we were shooting lights out. I loved the way the offense was able to knock down shots. I mean, we were able to knock down shots, but you saw at halftime we were shooting 70% from the field. We were shooting over 60% from three, yet we were only up 3 points. And I'm like, oh, this is not a recipe for success. Because if you looked at what the Hawks were doing, they were shooting 56% from the field. And I think they were shooting around 36% from three. And that was a sustainable pace. So for us to be only up three, playing lights out, I knew that during that second half, we would have to come out with a lot more defensive intensity. And to start the half, the Hawks were able to go on with an 11-0 run, and we had Grimes get a flagrant one. He ended up in foul trouble, so it was definitely difficult for us to get into a groove. And the Hawks during that run in the second half, I believe, has really helped them run away with it.
Yeah, and Quick having I think 5 shots and Grimes having 7 shots. That's not enough, man. I didn't understand that, and DeJounte just was eating, man. Nobody could stop his mid. He just kept running the same on the pick and roll. Nobody was stopping him, and Deuce is a nice kid, but he was getting eaten live.
Yeah, and the Knicks, of course, we were doing a tip special drop coverage. So basically, the guys were able to get into the paint at will, get to their spots, and they were a lot more confident trying to get to those spots, especially in the mid range. Without Mitch there, without his length, the attackers felt they had the ability to get to their spots with no real rim protection to,
None.
contest. And iHeart, we thought he could be a solid rim protector. And there's moments where he can get some pretty nice blocks and things like that. But for the most part, he doesn't have the same length as a Mitchell Robinson, and he doesn't have the same intuition, I would say, because you can look at Mitch, and Mitch, for he can really has decent play recognition, and he can intercept passes and things like that, and kind of understand what a ball handler might do. And you don't really see that same type of diagnosis or play diagnosis from an iHeart. So we're definitely missing Mitch, and it's going to be hard for this team to find a replacement on the roster. So you would assume that they might decide to go and make a move and bring in another body to help.
Yeah, I don't know. Like we've talked about, I don't have a feel for this office after all these years. I don't know, because it definitely looks like he'll be gone a month. You know, you think approximately in that time frame. So I don't know. Especially, there's 12 fouls between iHeart and Jericho, but who are they going to bring in? Who's available? Do you give up the assets for a rental? All those questions. And like you said, is Tibbs finally going to go to a small ball?
Yeah, we saw some small ballers, especially in the game where Mitchell first went down. I think to close the game, we saw RJ at the 4, and we saw Julius Randle at the 5. And then against the Hawks, we saw some Obi Randle with mixed results, I would say. The biggest thing that stuck out to me when Obi and Randle were out there on the court was there was a possession where the Hawks were able to get an easy offensive rebound, a putback, and then on the other side of the court, Obi had a wide open 3, and he wasn't able to make him pay. And if we're going to go to that small ball lineup, we can't have too many instances like those, because when we're playing that small ball lineup, we're supposed to be knocking down open 3s. That's the whole point of going small, for us to try to get better spacing and things like that. So we got to make teams pay when we get open looks, and we can't allow teams to bully us down in the paint when we go small.
Yeah, and I don't know anybody who's going to stop other teams from bullying us. This doesn't seem like we got that dog mentality on this team.
Yeah, Julius Randle, he has that bully mentality, but sometimes he can get a little bit too caught up in the motion, in the moment. So we'll see if somebody else can step up as that type of enforcer. Jericho Sims, he's built like that, but I don't think he really has that personality to be that type of enforcer. But we'll see. And speaking of Jericho Sims, I think stat wise, he had a solid game. He was 6 of 6 from the field, 8 rebounds, 2 steals, and he was for 12 points in total, and he was -3. So how did you feel about Jericho Sims' performance out there?
But he did well. He's a young guy, although he was a senior when he graduated. He came into the league from Texas. We always talk about muscle memory. It takes reps. And for him to learn, and sometimes learn the hard way, either fouling out or getting a lot of fouls. But, every possession is a learning possession for him. And, like you said, his stats weren't bad at all.
Were you shocked that he ended up getting the start over iHeart?
No. Anybody that sees iHeart, it's like, oh no, maybe we'll keep him on the side. But iHeart, he's been awful. I mean, there's been possessions where he misses 3 bunnies in a row and other things. So I know his effort is there, but every time when you describe a player, if you start with effort, it scares me. It's like, a guy or gal, somebody sent them up on a blind date, and you're like, what do they look like? They're really nice. No, seriously, what do they look like? No, very nice. And it's like, that's iHeart. Effort, man. Really got a lot of effort. So I don't remember last time you hit a floater or other stuff. So
yeah, but I was shocked. I thought that iHeart was probably going to get the nod to start and then have Jericho Sims come off the bench. But I like the fact that Sims started. He ended up even playing more minutes than iHeart as well. I think Sims had 28 and iHeart only had 17. So with Jericho, I'm loving that. He's showing a little bit more confidence out there, putting some shots up. And also he threw it down with some aggression too. Forgot which was against the Wizards when he got blocked by KP, and I'm like, bro, you got to go up stronger than that, and he did go up stronger in one of his dunk attempts. So that's something I did like to see from him. Now, how have you felt about RJ Barrett since he's returned from his injury?
He had a very strong game offensively. I think he's just absolutely terrible defensively. I know. I mean, it's just regressed this year to a terrible level, but he had a very good offensive game. He shot, well from the field, well from three. Although he still always has about a 1-to-1 assist to turnover ratio, but he had a strong game that way. I wish, he'd pass more, but also play. What was he, a -20? Yeah,
Yeah, -20, worst on the team.
yeah, yeah. His defense is just brutal.
Yeah, definitely the defense is concerning, but he's figuring it out offensively. But the thing is, the biggest issue with this team, I think, even though the offense has been stagnant for the last few games, not I won't say stagnant, it's been ISO heavy for the last few games. I think offensively, that's not even our biggest issue, is defensively. So for RJ to be, not one of our best players on that side of the ball, I think is definitely concerning, especially when he was talking himself about being a better defender and things like that, and we're not seeing it on the court. So definitely something I would like for him to get better at. But offensively, it feels like he's starting to find a groove, and I think that's important for him this year. So hopefully he can continue to get better defensively and continue to knock down that three, because that's an important part of his game.
He's elite getting to the rim, and in today's NBA, man, he's just getting there, with ease, and as long as he finishes. Hey, historically it's been SG stands for shooting guard, but he's a scoring guard, and that's not necessarily, the ball goes in, so he may not be a guy that lights you up with jump shot, but he gets the ball in the rim. So as long as, I'd love to see those assists come up. It would make a big difference to this team. But yeah, he's taking advantage of what he's great at, and hopefully those threes and middies and other things come along with it.
Yeah. So, Foxy, I want to jump in and look at some of the team's stats over the last 15 games. That takes in a big chunk of the Knicks games in which the cut of the rotation was implemented. So here we can see this is when the rotation shrunk over the last 15 games. And the stats, we've been averaging 113.9 points per game, which is 24th over that same span. We've been averaging 47.7 rebounds per game, which is third. That's going to take a dip with the loss of Mitchell Robinson. Assists, you can see we've been last in the league, averaging 20.5 assists per game. Field goal percentage, we've been not last, but we've been towards the bottom of the league at 28th, shooting 45.3% from the field. And then with threes, we're 22nd, shooting 34.9% from the 3-point line. And then free throw percentage, once again, an issue over the last 15 games. We've been 27th in the league, shooting 73.7% from the charity stripe. So you can see there has been some struggles offensively, especially with us knocking down our field goals and us not setting each other up for easy looks. The ball movement has completely stopped for the most part over the last 15 games. So what are some of the things you've been seeing out there on the court, Foxy, from this squad ever since the rotation has been cut down to 9?
Yeah, like you said, I'm seeing a lot of selfish ball, ISO ball. We saw before the 27 assists the other night, we saw like 17, 16, 16. We saw all these low numbers, and the same thing for Brunson. I think he's been wonderful, but he had like 2 assists, 4 assists, 4 assists. I want to see, he had 9 last game, but I want to see those numbers higher. And, it's become to a thing where Randle's having a great season, but if you pass the ball to Randle, it becomes an ISO possession. Even if it's not called for because of his game, he's going to take several dribbles, and that just leads to an ISO possession. So, and especially, the stats that you were saying about whether free throw, etc., matching what they are in the fourth quarter, because they've missed
Yeah.
they're exhausted. The guys are playing the starters are playing complete third quarters, and then we're dying down the stretch. And we've talked about it till we're blue in the face about Tibbs being stubborn, and shout out to JD with template coaching and stuff like that. But yeah, it's very difficult in today's NBA. 24th in points, 30th in assists, 28th and 27th, and 22nd in threes. That just can't go very far. And what's become the algorithm at this point is if the Knicks hold their opponents under 109 points, then they have a very good shot of winning. So if a team scores over 109 points, we're probably going to lose.
Yeah, and defense is supposed to be our calling card. So even if, I know Mitchell Robinson's a big piece of this team, he's our defensive anchor, but if we lose him, we shouldn't lose all defensive integrity. And that's what we saw in that Hawks game. Even in the first half when we were up, the Hawks were missing a bunch of open looks. Just off the top of my head, Griffin had 2 open looks that he missed. Bogdanovich had an open look that he missed. So things could have been a lot worse in that first half. We got, we were lucky to be up based on the way we were playing defense. So this guy's a defensive coach. Tibbs is supposed to be the basketball savant. He watches the film, so he should be able to get this team to go out there and be competitive defensively, even without a Mitchell Robinson. So it's on Tibbs now to see how he can, move players around within the rotation and scheme up things a little bit differently, because there were no adjustments made in that Hawks game, and we'll see what happens in this game against the Raptors this evening.
Yeah, it's lunacy whether that game or against the Wizards, Kuzma against RJ. It's like we need Cam, we need length. RJ can't cover a guy that big. When other guys, it's like trade this guy already. Meaning, can I ask you a question? And also the SV Nation, what the hell what's going to go through your head if February 9th comes and goes and Cam is not traded?
That can't happen. There's no way that can happen.
Well, this team, anything can happen. But I'm like saying, why the hell haven't you traded this guy already? Because we're going through games where his length is badly needed, and he's just sitting there. So either you have an imminent trade and trade him, or play this son of a bitch. But you're killing this team. You can't have an asset, and also it's just jumping off the freaking page or screen that we need a 6'8", 7'3" wingspan type of player on this team.
I mean, look at DeJounte Murray. He was shooting over everybody. He was shooting over Deuce. He was shooting over Quick. He was shooting over Ion. Yeah. He was just shooting over anybody in front of him. And you had a guy like Cam, even if he's going over screens, he can recover a lot better than a guy like Deuce, just based on the length and the wingspan he has to try and contest some of those shots, even if he gets caught up on screen. I think that was one of his best assets out there defensively, his ability to recover. So the fact that this team doesn't employ him to try and be a defensive stopper, even in spurts, I'm not saying he has to come off the bench now and play 28 minutes or so, but in a competitive game where you see we're getting cooked by some guards out there on the perimeter, for him to not even be an option, I think is kind of ridiculous. So that's extremely unfortunate. We'll have to see what we do get for him, because if we're trading him, I would like to get a player in a similar build, a similar archetype, because that's exactly what this team needs. So the fact that we're trading him in the first place is ridiculous. But if we are going to trade him, at least get a player has a similar skill set.
And don't wait to February 8th at 8:00 at night or whatever it is. Just
right now you have no leverage.
Yeah, just do something. But every game is just saying, man, we could have used Cam. And like you said, even if they lit up Cam, it was like saying we tried, like you said, IQ didn't work out. We tried Deuce, it didn't work out. We tried Grimes. Who could we throw at this guy? I got an idea, Cam, but never comes. And did you see him spinning the ball? The first time I seen him with a basketball on the sideline the other day, he was holding it during the game. He looked animated. So I'm like, yo, did somebody say he's going to get into the game? Because usually he just has his hood over his head and he just, talks with his hand over his mouth. So I'm like, wow, he looks a little lively. Maybe he's going to get some burn. Nah, that didn't happen. And like you said tonight, because we know that Brunson, one of the kryptonites for Brunson, is throwing length at Brunson. So we're going to see a long team tonight.
Yep, it's unfortunate, but we'll see what this front office decides to do and see if we can get something of value from him for him. All right, looking at some of the analytics, offensive rating, we're tied for sixth at 118.1. Defensive rating, we're down with 23rd in the league at 117.6. And that leaves us with a net rating of zero point 0.5, which is good for 20th in the league. Now, you look at some of these other offensive numbers, effective field goal percentage, we're 27th in the league at 52.2. True shooting percentage, we're 28th in the league at 55.9. Pace has slowed to a crawl. We're now last in the league in pace at 94.88. And we're also last in the league in assist percentage at 50.3. So this team is struggling on both ends. Tibbs is just going to have to figure out something. We need to see him make some sort of adjustments to try and get us moving the ball more and also tightening things up defensively. And he's the one that says he watches the film. And I think this team is still good enough to be competitive. I don't think what we saw in the Hawk squad is how this team should look without a Mitchell Robinson. Every game should not be teams having easy paths to the paint in order to collapse our defense and find shooters all over left, right, and center. This team, I think, has the defenders on it to be solid defensively. And offensively, I think you look at what Jalen Brunson can do, you look at what Julius Randle can do, you look at what RJ Barrett can do. There are other parts of their game that can flourish in a system where they're not just so ISO heavy. And you look at the coach, you look at the coaching staff, and they're going to have to dial up some sort of offense that can get the ball moving once again and get some more shots for some of our guys like Quentin Grimes, who's deadly from three. You know, Emmanuel Quickley, you mentioned he only had 5 shots. He should be getting more looks. It's, to me, I think a misstep to have 2 guys or even 3 guys at times dominate the ball for the entirety of possessions.
Yeah, well, he better do something quick, Tibbs, because a tsunami. This schedule over the in February, we're a blink away from February. It's going to get brutal. I mean, good team after good team after good team, and we lost to Washington, but it was only the second time they were at full strength. And Atlanta. Pardon me. Ouch.
Mm-hmm.
Unlike last time we played him, where Collins was out, I think Capella was out, and then he got injured. DeJounte
got injured.
Yeah, so they were back. So we lucked out. If we start going against full strength teams, the reality of this team is going to come. And again, we keep saying it every week. We never said the Knicks were going to be a bad team. We said they were going to be a mediocre team, and around the 500 mark, plus or minus a couple of games. And it seems that's their thing. Every time you look at them, they're 5 and 6, 6. They're always around that. Over after 10 games or so, that's where they're trending, and I think that's where they're going to trend. And they may even trend worse now because of losing Mitch. That we're going to get victimized badly.
Yeah, man. I know teams around the league right now are licking their chops, just waiting to try and attack this defense because the news around the league is already that teams can get good looks from 3, and now without Mitchell Robinson, knowing that you can get into the paint at will, it's going to be tough. Definitely going to be tough.
And then just the opposite is like, don't have to go over the screen against the Knicks. Go under the screen, let them shoot. That's how we beat them. They can't shoot.
I mean, Brunson's been hitting the 3. We'll see that. I'll put.
Yep, he's brought it up beautifully, no doubt.
But other than him, yeah, we have been struggling to knock down 3s. So let's look at the starting lineup now with Mitchell Robinson out and see how these guys have been performing over the last 15 games. You can see Jalen Brunson. He's been great offensively, averaging 28.3 points per game, which is good for 12th in the league during that span. He's averaging 6.3 assists per game, 4.7 rebounds per game, while shooting 48.8% from the field and 47.5% from the three-point line. Now, the minutes per game, kind of crazy. Over the last 15, he's averaging 39.3 minutes per game, which is tied for 3rd highest in the league in that span. So, Foxy, what have you been seeing from Jalen Brunson during this time period? And do you think this level of play will be sustainable for the rest of the season?
I don't know if it'll be sustainable. I know he's a pit bull. We love Brunson. We love what he's brought, but it's one sided. We see this, but the weirdest thing about Brunson this year is that if you look at on court, off court, the Knicks are a better team with Brunson off the court. And you're like, get the hell out of here. Look what he's brought to this team. And that's the truth. The truth of the matter is that even with all his offensive exploits that we see before our eyes here, that what he's averaging, he's just invisible on defense. So he's giving up more points than he's scoring. So we have to do something. That I'm happy what he's doing, but I want obviously he has killer stats here, but in some ways it's misleading because how bad he is on defense.
Yeah, he definitely has been an issue defensively, but I think offensively, without him, the Knicks probably aren't in a lot of these games, especially in the fourth quarter. And I think that's where Jalen Brunson has definitely excelled in clutch situations. So looking at this team, when we eventually move off of Tom Thibodeau, I think even though Jalen Brunson could be a defensive liability at times, if we get another coach that can bring in a better defensive concept that can kind of help him out there, I think he'd still be a key player, especially in those moments when we're looking to try and win games. For the most part, Julius Randle has gotten off to hot starts, and then we've relied on Jalen Brunson to kind of get us there and close things out. So I do have to admit that the defense has been an issue, but offensively, he's been, lights out. And I think he's probably been one of the brightest spots of the team so far.
Oh, no doubt. He's been wonderful. His attitude, there's not a game that goes by where he doesn't take or at least try to get a charge. So he's putting his body on the line. You see the way he's talking to the other guys. So, but you and I brought it up, whether it's him or Deuce, it's not a league where you could be 6-1 anymore. You could may light it up on one side, but it's such a tough league that, we see with Deuce, compared to Brunson, how good he is defensively. And like you were saying, they just go right up over him. It's 6'5", 6'6" guys. They can't do a damn thing. And Goff, and a couple of the switches with. Also, let me ask you a question.
Yep,
what the hell was Tibbs thinking about putting Brunson on Hunter?
Hunter? He was trying to hide him from Trey and DeJounte.
Oh, all right. So you put him against a monster, as a 6'8" guy like that.
Yeah. It was a crazy adjustment for him to make. The time he does make a change, that's what he decides to do.
He's a very good defensive player, Hunter, man. You just,
yeah,
and also he could light it up from three. So if you don't have a guy that he could just rise up over, there's just, I just don't know what the hell Tibbs was thinking, putting him on a 6'8" guy like that.
Yeah, it was nutty. And we paid the price. What did Hunter end up doing in that game? I think, what did he have? Like close to 20?
He had 20 points, 7 of 11. Yeah, he shot 7 for 11, 3 for 7 for 3, exactly. So plus 5. Brunson was a minus 19. He was only second to RJ's minus 20.
Yeah. It was a rough game to watch. Rough game. Probably we were excited first quarter. Probably that excitement kind of turned to worry in that second quarter, but you still had some positive vibes. And then the second half, just everything went to shit.
Yeah.
All right. So Julius Randle. Now, Julius Randle, he's averaging the same amount of points per game as Jalen Brunson. So he's tied for 12th as well, averaging 4.5 assists, 13.5 rebounds, which is going to be big. Without Mitchell Robinson, we need him to continue to be a rebounding monster. He's shooting 44.3% from the field and 35% from the three-point line. And just like Jalen Brunson, he's averaging 39.3 minutes per game, which is tied for third most in that span. It's a little weird, right? A little creepy. They're both averaging the same amount of points and the same amount of minutes.
Well, I'm a template coach, and I make sure that they have 39.3, 28.3, and, that Jalen didn't listen to me. I wanted him to get the 13.5 rebounds. He didn't listen. So, hey, he's playing monster level. He's leaving it on the court. Yep. The one thing that we've learned from Julius, when bad Julius shows up, it's when he's being overworked. He's tired. That messes, he gets in the fourth quarter crunch time. He played a whole third quarter. He's trying to take the team on its back. And then the bad turnovers, the bad plays, and things happen. He's just exhausted. But he's leaving it on the court, man. I got nothing to say bad about Julius. I mean, he's trying. He's really trying. His possessions versus last year, yeah. We can't go a game where Clyde doesn't say boxing out is a lost art, and which just drives me crazy. But but he's having some very good defensive possessions, and I just wish, a perfect example is he had three gorgeous dimes to Mitch, I think, in the first quarter, like a couple games ago, and then you don't see it for the rest of the game. And it's like, yo, get Mitch Eaton, man. And it was a mismatch and stuff like that. So I want to see, more plays like that, but he's playing all-star caliber with his stats, at least. That's for sure.
Yeah, the 3-point shooting has definitely come up. He was shooting, I think, very low 30s for the first month, maybe.
Was.
And now he's gotten that up to 35% from three. I know initially, I wanted Julius Randle traded, but with the way the team is looking now, it seems highly unlikely. So hopefully he can continue to play this way. So that way, that's something we can revisit in the offseason, because when his shot is falling, he's a very difficult player to guard. He has that physicality that he can get to his spots out there on the court. He has some handling ability to at least, break down slower footed defenders and things like that. So, he is a talented player. I just think sometimes when he's asked to process too much, he can make the wrong decisions and not create turnovers, but end up causing a turnover. And I think that if you try to continue to build around him, you're not necessarily going to get a playoff contending team. So he's been solid. Still not sold on him being someone that should continue to be, one of the core players if we want to build out a championship contender. But for this season, if we're going to be competitive and get to potentially, fingers crossed, the second round, we need this all-star level play from Julius Randle. And I think it works well for the team because we'll be able to, hopefully get to that second round. Fingers crossed. And also this offseason, if he continues to play like that, we should be able to get a haul. And that way, maybe we can flip whatever we get for him into another, elite superstar level type of player.
I'm with you all the way. And people like, look at those stats and everything. I said it earlier. You watch the game, folks. He gets the ball. It's about 10 seconds off a shot clock until he gets his thing. He's not a guy that a couple dribbles and he gets his shot off. It has to be a whole, a workup for him dribbling and positioning his body, and then if they collapse, he'll kick it out. But then there's not a lot of shots, so I just don't see that as winning basketball. At the end, like you see up here, folks, great freaking stats. I just don't see that, like he said, to build a foundational. That he has great stats, but I'd rather have a different type of four than Julius, and if the old saying, sell high. If he's playing at this level and somebody comes in with an offer versus where we were, that we can get a really good player, and I definitely think about it, because again, I just don't think the guy to the left of him, Julius and RJ, because of their style of the games, that they're complementary players. It's either one or the other, I think, should be playing, or one should be RJ on the second team, whatever. But them at the same time on the court, it's the same thing with RJ. He's not a guy with two dribbles and gets his shot off. It takes a whole wind up for him to get to the hole and dribble through his legs. It's a process, and it's not, you look at the other teams and stuff, damn, that guy got that shot up quick. He got his separation, and you saw RJ, whether Siakam blocked him last game. He got a shot blocked, 2 shots. I think he has 50 shots blocked already this season. So he's, if he didn't miss the time with the injured finger, I still think he's going to get over 100 shot block for the second year in a row. And he has this nice floater that he's showing more this year, RJ. So I just wish he continues with that flow. He doesn't take that extra bounce and that extra dribble and get in. That one dribble gets him too close to the tall guys. Take that right inside the foul line, that little floater, and it seems that his touch and everything, it's coming together. So, like I said, he's playing well, but their styles are just too similar. You can't have those two guys there, man.
Yeah, just to get into RJ Barrett's stats, he's averaging 21.6 points per game, 2.4 assists per game, 5.4 rebounds per game, while shooting 45.9% from the field and 38.8% from the 3-point line, while playing 34.3 minutes per game. So he's not over that 35 minutes per game mark. But what I really like is that 3-point shooting over the last 15. Him shooting close to 39% from three. I think that's a big question mark we had heading into the season. Could he match that year where we shot, what was it, 41% from three? And, it's not there really. It's not at 41%, but 39% is hella good, honestly. Especially
above league average for sure.
Yeah, and you look at the field goal percentage, shooting 45.9% from the field. So his efficiency is getting much better, and that's something that we've had a question about since he got into the league. Could he be a more efficient scorer? And we've seen that over these last 15 games, even though this stretch has some games missing because he was out due to injury. So I don't think this is a full 15 game sample. So I just do have to put that out there as well. So if he can continue to shoot at this clip for the remaining portion of the season, I think it definitely makes you feel more confident as to what his ceiling could be in the NBA. Like you said, we want to see those assists come up a little bit more, see if he can be more of a creator for others as well as himself. Because we've seen it. He has a good rapport with Mitch. Mitch will be out, so we'll miss some of that. But I think if you look at what Tibbs does with the second unit, there's a lot of space there for him to be a creator and for him to be the engine out there with that unit. And that second unit has struggled. So I think that shows poorly on RJ if he's one out of our big three that's getting the most overlap with that second unit, because that's when he should be taking over. So hopefully we'll see a little bit more of that throughout this season, where he can actually take over with that second unit.
Yeah, I saw a couple of things where he was feeling good. He did a little bounce pass through his legs to Quick for a three.
Mm-hmm.
The three didn't go down, but I liked, that he was feeling good and setting them up like that. So yeah, but there was also some possessions where Tibbs subbed him out for Quick, and I thought Quick looked better with the rest of the guys. That Quick, Jalen, Grimes, Julius, and the Sims played better. The ball moved nicer without RJ on that team, meaning on that starting team. So we'll definitely see.
Something we got to keep an eye out on. Salute to Hoodie Kev, my old friend Stephen Fox and Sports Vibes TV. Salute.
Yeah.
Everything. Hope all is well.
Hoodie Kev, how are you, Kevin? Hope all is well with you and your family. The velvet voice, man. We'll never forget that. I see the wonderful, the magnificent D's World of Hoops folks is in the chat. Check him out at 12 o'clock on a day after games for his wonderful recaps and phenomenal film reviews and GM mode, and he has fantastic innovative segments. So shout out to my guy D. There's Sherwin. Hope all is well, Sherwin. And obviously Geraldine MacGyver, the one and only.
Yep, thank you for tuning in. We got 39 in chat. Just do us a solid, smash that like button. Only have 16 likes. Let's see if we can get that that viewer to like ratio up. Jet Life for Life, thank you for tuning in. Appreciate it. So let's look at Quentin Grimes now. Quentin Grimes is averaging 13.1 points per game, 2.3 assists per game, 3.7 rebounds per game, while shooting 42.8% from the field and 35.8% from the 3-point line. And he is averaging over 35 minutes per game. So Foxy, how do you feel about Grimes averaging that many minutes per game? Because remember, he did have that foot issue to start the season, dealing with plantar fasciitis, and he really didn't have too much of a ramp up period. He kind of went from not playing to being given a pretty large role on the team. So are you cool with Quentin Grimes getting that many minutes, and do you think he's getting enough shot attempts? Because I don't think he's getting.
He's not getting anywhere near the shot attempts, but I'm sure you're like me. I'm happy you see development. You're seeing him, close out. He's one of the only guys, or the only guy, pardon me, that cuts to the basket. So he has all these, Jalen had a beautiful setup for him for cutting to the basket. But besides his three, just him getting there, maybe we want to see a little more midi. but his playmaking, I'm surprised. I thought, when you see it, it feels like a little more than 2.3 assists per game. But he's a solid player. He's young. He makes a couple of mistakes. How do you make that 4-point play? That was a pivotal play that the other day to start the second half.
Yeah.
But he's a solid player. My only issue with Quentin, and we saw it, is that I like when you're putting together roster construction, I like my twos in today's NBA to be switchable with threes. He's only 6'4". So meaning when he throws on his sneakers, he's 6'5" and stuff. Sherwin, I know, will tell me his exact height in 2 seconds, but he's really a pure two more than a three. And even with him being very good on defense, you were seeing him just get lit up. He's just not big enough against some of the threes that he gets put on in this league. And but he's a solid player. I like Quentin. I think he's, I like, the minutes, and like you were saying earlier, he missed 36 games last year. So he comes in with the foot injury this year, and that's off of missing, last year games, so that rust and everything. So I think he's been really solid. And like I said, I love when I see a player develop from what we saw a year ago. So we're seeing all these other elements of the game, shooting well from the foul line, I think around 80%. So I'd like to see him just keep on that trajectory.
Yeah, I like the creativity I've seen from him when he puts the ball on the floor. I think that's one asset of his game that makes him more than just a 3-and-D player. The ability to actually put the ball on the floor and make good decisions and make some solid passes. We saw it in Summer League. We saw the synergy between him and Jericho Sims when they were out there, and Grimes was responsible for running the show. And now we're seeing him be able to do that when some of the other guys are drawing the attention, and teams close out too hard. He's able to put the ball on the floor and find either his big or somebody else cutting for an easy basket. So yeah, it was surprising again that he only had the 2.3 assists per game, but that's just because they don't use him enough. He's not really given too many opportunities to create for himself or create for others. So hopefully if he makes some adjustments to this offense, he'll get a little bit more opportunities to showcase what he can do. And, defensively, he's always going to give the effort. And I agree with you. Sometimes, when he's matched up against taller offensive players, they are able to still get good and quality looks. But one thing I can say is he does make it difficult for them. And I think that definitely accounts for something, especially later on in the game. They're a lot more fatigued with Grimes guarding them as opposed to, some other player on the squad guarding them. So I've been a fan of what he's been able to do outside of some of the boneheaded plays and clutch moments. But we just need to see if we can get him a little bit more involved and just to see what his ceiling could be, because we already know he can do the 3-and-D, knock down the 3-point shot and be a solid defender out there on the perimeter. But are there other assets of his game that we're not seeing because this offense is so, antiquated and it's just so ISO heavy?
You can't show your game if you're only getting 5 touches.
Yeah, true.
And like we said, God forbid Tibbs runs a curl for this guy, runs an actual, calls out a play there. Somebody sets a screen that, let's run a play for Quentin. God forbid that ever happens. It never happens.
Yeah, not one bit. Oh, man. I mean, I could probably live with Tibbs if he was willing to bring in an offensive guy to help make this offense more creative. But it doesn't seem like he's willing to get any type of input from any guy that's going to come in and try and build up an offensive scheme that'll get some of these guys easier looks.
I feel for whomever comes in after Tibbs because of this roster. I've seen a lot of players looking off other players. I've seen selfish play. And if somebody comes in here, they're going to have to be given carte blanche or a license to say, yo, if somebody does that, I'm going to have to be able to have the power to sit their ass. But I've seen, RJ look off people, Brunson look off people, Randle look off people, and that's not good basketball. That's not good basketball. And I've seen a couple plays where a guy, the other game, I think RJ got a couple of, was starting to heat up, and Randle got the inbound ball and was like, I'm taking this possession. And at one point, RJ's all along on the wing. It's like, yeah, he's cooking. Feed him. Let RJ come. Nope, I'm taking this possession. And you're like, don't tell me this is on this team that is going to become a selfish type of team like that, and where they're just, I'm going to go ISO on this possession. I'm going to go ISO on this possession. And like it kills you. Why do you start off the game in the first quarter and stuff, show ball movement, show teamwork? You hit the fourth quarter, everyone's selfish and ISO.
Yeah, because everybody's trying to be the guy. Everybody wants to be the hero.
Yeah, but they're coming up zeros.
Yep. All right. We'd get into Jericho Sims, but it's not really too many games to make a legitimate sample size.
Well, the thing that sticks out with me at Sims is that with all his goodness and his jumping and everything, when you see him on, KP and other things, compel, he's 6'9". That's the thing that sticks out, that, he's a power forward size. When you see him jump like that, you're like, oh my God, but when down low and stuff, he's still only 6'9", and it's a big difference in this league, man.
Yep. He's probably 7 foot with the curl, but that doesn't factor in.
So am I.
All right. So let's look at the second unit now. So this is how the second unit has performed over the last 15 games. You see Emmanuel Quickley. He's averaging 17.1 points per game, 3.7 assists per game, 4.1 rebounds per game, while shooting 46.2% from the field and 31.2% from the three-point line. And he's doing all of this while averaging 34.6 minutes per game. So one big thing that I think, fans of Emmanuel Quickley was pointing out is that the field goal percentages have jumped over that 40% mark, and that was big. That was something Quick said he wanted to have, and you can see 46.2% from the field is not only over 40%, but that's a pretty good field goal percentage as well. The only thing you'd want,
he averaged 39 the first 2 years. Yeah,
exactly. So for the 3-point, you'd want him to be a little bit better from the 3-point line. We looked at him as a knockdown shooter, and there's moments, especially from that corner, he can knock down the three and, really get the team going. But for the most part, the 3-point has been inconsistent. So that's definitely an area we would like for him to improve. But, he's making buckets, averaging that 17.1 points per game. And a lot of that was as a starter, replacing Jalen Brunson. So to see him step up when given the opportunity to start, I think that was definitely great to see. And, he just has to start knocking down the three. The defense is definitely something that you got to tip your hat off to him. I mean, he did get cooked on a couple plays by DeJounte, but for the most part, he's been one of, if not the best perimeter defender. You can argue between him and Quentin Grimes to see which one was better, but I definitely like what I've seen from Emmanuel so far in the second half of the first half.
Makes two of us, like you said, the defense, and very similar to Grimes. I love seeing on young players' development. We're seeing this little turnaround midi classic jumper from him, not that floater strictly. So we're seeing that and other elements, getting to the hole. He's showing a quickness that doesn't look like, he seems a little quicker, in fact, So, yeah, you brought up on previous streams that he's only, 4.2 million next year under contract. So let's be patient. And one of the things that, for us to look at the signs of life is when all these teams are making inquiries about Manuel Quickley. It's about a guy that has a good motor every possession. You don't have to worry game in, game out about him. I could see Quickley part of a championship caliber team. What he brings, not necessarily a starter, but a valuable member of a team that comes in and stuff like that. So he's a young guy. He's shown development. I don't want to burn him into the ground again with this coach, the amount of minutes. And he does have a knee that's bothering him. So we don't know. He's questionable for tonight. So I don't know if we surveyed 100 people or any of our field producers know any information yet. So it's a shame if he's going to miss some time with a bum wheel.
Also, you saw the footwork down in the post.
I'm seeing so many things from him. So yeah,
that was a beautiful move.
Yeah, it's impressive, and getting his and ones. He just getting that ball in there, and yeah. So like you said, if he can get that three going, and we've seen a lot of it that and again, reiterate, he's so much better off catch and shoot on the threes than off the dribble. And so when he has somebody, whether it's a Brunson or like his rookie year, a D Rose, feeding him at that 3 point line where he can square up good shooting for him for his three, he's so much better than trying to create it himself.
Quickley out tonight.
Shoot.
Yeah, got it from Fred Katz and Mark Stein. Well, no, I'm sorry. I got it from Kurt G originally, and then I went to confirm on the internet.
So you think that means D Rose tonight?
Could be D Rose. You could see the Frenchman. I'm not 100% sure, but what I am 100% sure is it won't be Cam. That's for sure. We know that
Call
for a
fact. Engine room. No Cam.
Right? Over under 1 minute for Cam. Oh man, that sucks.
Yeah.
Whew. Bricks Nation. At least IQ can stay in front of players, although he should be taking charges like Brunson, but he's too soft for that. I don't know about him being soft, but he does do a good job staying in front of players. That's definitely one area that
I don't think IQ's soft at all, man. Just look at his rebound numbers. He rebounds better than Obi.
And Obi was out there getting moved by Denny Avdija. I'm like, Obi, bro, you got to stand your ground. I mean, Avdija, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, was that embarrassing? Our guy D from D's World of Hoops did something really cool. He played Mr. Softy in the background when he showed Obi, and I couldn't think of anything more apropos. Yeah, man. And that's a small forward. He's supposed to be a 4, and he's just but his reaction to it also was just like like all meek and shit. So it's like, he's a poser. He's definitely not somebody that I have on this roster, Obi. Let him reach his potential somewhere else. But like I said, I don't dig guys where losing doesn't hurt him. You watch the Knicks, you watch when he loses, 30 seconds after the lose, he's hugging the other guys on the other team. And he's a good guy, but not a guy that I want on my team.
Yeah, he's struggled so far, especially since he's returned. He's shooting 28% from the field, 28.6% from the 3-point line, only getting about 11.5 minutes per game, and he's averaging 2.9 points per game, 0.9 assists per game, and 2 rebounds per game. So not off to a great start returning from injury. I know things are going to be a little bit, rocky. Trying to get healthy, trying to get 100% out there on the court, get your win back and things like that. But he's definitely going to have to step up his play. Like we talked, he's getting babied by guys like Avdija. He's not standing his ground down there in the paint, and he's not hitting his outside shot. So he's not getting as many open opportunities in transition. And that was really a bulk of a lot of his points and damage. So now he's having to try to create in the half court. And we're seeing him have some issues there, especially with the team not really looking for him in the half court as well. We're not running any pick and rolls for him. He was a pick and roll beast coming into the league, and now very little pick and rolls run for him. So, pace is slowed down. That's not going to be ideal for Obi Toppin in his game, and we're seeing him struggle so far.
On the other side of the ball, man, I'm stopping. I'm hit play, stop, rewind, play. He is so lost on defense. It's like, God, I know you missed some games with the knee injury, but you literally look like a rookie out there. You don't know he's looking around like lost on defense at times since coming back. And it's like, yo, that, and like you said, with Denny and a few other plays, playing soft, not boxing out, not going up for a dunk and getting his shot blocked. It's like, you're a freaking slam dunk champion. What kind of going up soft like that? Either dunk it or get fouled, but there can't be an in between if you got the hops that you do going up soft like that, man.
Yeah. Also, we've got a report from Kurt G. Says there are representatives from the Bucks, Timberwolves, Pacers, Clippers, and Grizzlies here today checking out the Raptors Knicks game. Speculate away. Source Adam Latucaris. So, trade deadline is upon us, and teams are going to be looking for ways to get better, and they're scouting some of our guys. I'm pretty sure they were probably there to look at guys like Emmanuel Quickley. It's interesting. People from the Timberwolves are there. You would think not Timberwolves. Teams like the Clippers are there. I wonder what player they'd be interested in on the squad, especially with Quickley now being out. It's funny if everybody's there looking to scout Quick because he's been going off recently, and now he's not even playing, so they wasted the trip.
I don't know. If I was them, I'd be scouting Toronto.
True. But then OG's out.
OG is out. You know,
Yeah, so
I know.
like
Is he definitely out? I know he left the game last game with an ankle injury.
Someone in chat said it seemed like he was definitely out, but I didn't confirm it. So let me confirm it before I act like it's true.
Yeah, and anybody know about Fred VanVleet also? That was also questionable. So if they're without VanVleet and OG, that bodes a lot better for us tonight, folks. Especially without OG is ruled out, which is good. Yep.
And even better if Fred VanVleet is out. He's been killing us.
Even, yeah, man. They've been having shootouts. Him and Jalen. I'd rather not have that. They're. I'll take Malachi Flynn any day.
I think Fred VanVleet knows he's about to get a new contract, so he says, "I'm trying to get that Jalen Brunson deal." So every time I go out there, I'm going to have a competitive stat line to his, because when it's negotiating time, that's the contract I'm bringing forward. Look what he got. Pay me the same.
And there are a lot of teams interested in him. He may be somebody at the trade deadline that'll surprise that he may get traded.
So Fred VanVleet was out versus the Celtics. I'm still not seeing an update for what his status is today. But we'll see. If anybody knows. Oh, Jason says VanVleet is playing.
He is playing. Well, he sees Brunson. He's going to, I got 35 tonight.
Yeah. See, Jason M says that's about the Raptors player, not the Knicks. I wouldn't be surprised. You know, Siakam's probably a name that could probably be on the move if somebody gives a competitive offer. They got a few guys over
Gary
there.
Trent Jr.
Mm-hmm. Gary Trent Jr. as well. He's actually been rumored as a potential player the Knicks could pursue. I mean, I don't necessarily see it. Like we've said, we should be looking for bigger players. Try to, especially with Mitch out, you know, if you can't get another center to replace him in that spot, then try to find another wing that can give you some length so you can try some different small ball lineups out there.
Exactly.
All right. So before we get into the speculation zone, let's talk about Deuce, man. We were high. I was definitely high on Deuce. I wanted to see him get some more play time to see what he can do. And, you know, really hasn't put his best foot forward, I would say. He's averaging 3.7 points per game, 0.8 assists per game, 0.7 rebounds per game, while shooting 28.6% from the field and 28.6% from the three-point line. Shot just not falling for him. He's knocked a few down recently. I forgot which game he was 3 of 5 from the three-point line. So that was definitely encouraging. But other than that, we really haven't seen much from him offensively. And defensively, you see the tenacity and the intensity out there on the court. But because he's not a taller guard, you know, you see some tall ones and some, you know, twos able to get their shot off pretty easily. So it remains to be seen what Tibbs is going to do. If we bring in some additional players, will he use him as some sort of defensive stopper? But I think we do have to upgrade that shooting guard position with the second unit if we're trying to be legitimate contenders in the first round, at least.
I'm with you. He doesn't show that he's a shooting guard. He doesn't show that he's a playmaker, and he shows that he's a situational good defensive player. But like you said, on switches and stuff like that, he's can't do a damn thing, man. They're just going up over him like he's not even there. So I did see something encouraging, though, the last game. I don't know if you caught it. Mm-hmm. He looked off IQ. And he did a play for him that you saw in Bridgeport from the Westchester Knicks, where he did a lob for Sims.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know if it's coming to the point where he's getting sick of this shit too, Deuce, that he's like, nah, man, I'm going to take this. And he did a nice play like that. I want him to play angry. I want him to play like this is his last hurrah, because it is his last hurrah. There's just way too many kids in the draft, Cason Wallace, other guys that have, hey, the truth of the matter, if somebody said to me, Quentin Grimes is a better point guard than Deuce McBride. I'd play.
Deuce doesn't really run the point for us. He's off ball.
Yeah, so if Tibbs could run Burks, look at the way the playmaking on Grimes. I'd play Grimes without even a blink over Deuce. Hitting the threes and his offensive game as a backup point guard on this team before Deuce. So Deuce is not going to get taller. Maybe I think his shot will fall a little more, but he just doesn't have the ability to break down defenses with his handle. And so I just don't see him on this team in 2 years.
Yeah, hopefully he can figure things out. But right now, being thrown into the fire seems like it's a little bit too much for him to handle. So we'll see. We shall see. All right, Foxy. So let's talk about some small ball lineups. Also, we want to get some feedback from the chat as well. Just wanted to get your opinions on some of these small ball lineups the Knicks could try and use.
I want to say thank you though.
Go ahead, feel free. Who?
I thought you were going to ask me about Hartenstein. I was going to say no. Anybody but Hartenstein. Go to small ball. Go to small ball lineups. Go to anything else. I don't want to talk about iHeart, please.
I hear you on that, but we talked about him a little bit earlier, so I didn't want to,
Yeah, please. My side's hurting me enough.
So, chat, here's the first option. This is a unit that we saw in the last game against the Hawks. You got Jalen Brunson at point guard. You have Emmanuel Quickley at the 2. You have RJ Barrett at the 3, Obi Toppin at the 4, and Julius Randle at the center. So, Foxy, how do you feel about this starting lineup? Me, there's been, varying results. At times it looked like it's something that could be an option for this team to try and explore a little bit more. But then also there's moments, like I mentioned in the Hawks game, where, we gave up an offensive rebound. We weren't able to make them pay on the opposite end. And, it looks like we're getting outmaneuvered in the paint and things like that. And there's also games, last year I saw them use this lineup against Toronto, and Toronto was able to use and abuse it. So to me, this isn't the most ideal small ball lineup, but I wanted to get your opinion on it.
Yeah, and what we prefaced the show with, we don't know if Quick will be there tonight, so it would probably be more Brunson, Quentin, RJ, Randall, and Obi. But like you said, Obi's soft. Randall do all he can, but he's also vertically challenged. So, and if it gets fourth quarter, they're all exhausted. So, I just don't think Obi, in a small ball lineup, like you said, I see him as a transition second team player that thrives in fast break points and cutting to the basket because he can't create his own shot. He's totally dependent on somebody else for him to be the best player he can be, Obi. So I don't see that as viable this lineup, or I think they'll just get killed.
Yeah, it definitely would be an issue defensively for this squad. So here's the second option. Here we've got Brunson at the point guard, as the point guard. We got Quick at the 2. We've got Grimes at the 3, RJ at the 4, and then we've got Julius Randle at the center position. Now, this, you do get an upgrade defensively out there on the perimeter. Now you have 2+ defenders out there on the perimeter, and Quick and Grimes that can try to, lend some help to a Jalen Brunson and, even RJ when he struggles at times. How would you feel about this lineup out there as a small ball?
Like you said, I think depending, it's all situational. What the team we're playing, their definition of the small ball they have on. Some of the guys have 6'8", 6'8", 6'8", but yeah, I think it's viable at the perimeter. Offensively, I think it's a lot more. Can do a lot more than with the Obi option.
And offensively, Grimes is a much better shooter. Quick can knock down the 3. Brunson, he's been on fire from 3. And we've seen RJ, since he's come back, he's been able to knock down the 3 officially. And then, Randall as well can knock down the 3. So I think the spacing would be great. And also you've got 5 guys that can put the ball on the floor, can create for themselves, and also create for others. So I think this is a lineup that we actually saw. We saw some of it the night Mitch Robinson got injured, but I don't think we've seen too much of it since. I think we saw more of the Obi Randle lineup against the Hawks. So this is something I'd also be open to. And Tibbs has shown that he will throw this lineup out there when he needs to. All right, so let's look at another.
I'm just afraid.
Go
Oh, I'm
ahead.
sorry. Please go to no. Go to the next option.
So here with option three, of course, this is going to be a long shot. We know Cam Reddish will never play for this team again, which is unfortunate. But he's still on this team. So when you're looking at the best lineups for this squad, you have to at least mention that there is a player on the team that could fill a role in a small ball lineup. So in this one, we have Brunson, we have Quick, we have Cam Reddish, we have RJ Barrett, and then we have Julius Randle. Now, I like this because you have additional length now with Cam over a guy like Quentin Grimes, and I still think you can be sound defensively with what Cam can give you out there. And also, Cam has shown the ability to knock down the three, and he's shown the ability to knock down clutch threes. You guys all remember that Grizzlies game where he was able to knock down a corner three in a real key moment for the New York Knicks. So, Foxy, I know once again this is a lineup that we probably won't see. But how would you feel if Tibbs were to use this lineup and surprise us all?
Like it a lot more than the Obi. You know, a lot of people don't realize that they're about the same size, Cam and Obi. You know, and I think Cam has a bigger a wingspan. So yeah, he can create his own shot, like you said, spacing wise. I'd like this a whole lot better. This option, unfortunately, we won't see this. Knowing Tibbs, we'll most likely see more of a Brunson, Grimes, Fournier,
Right?
RJ, and Randall option than going with something that makes sense like this.
And then here's option four. This one, I think, is real creative. You have Quick out there, you have Grimes out there, and you have RJ, Cam, and Julius Randle. How would you feel about this one? You wouldn't have the scoring punch of a Jalen Brunson, but you would see an uptick defensively, especially out there on the perimeter. You still wouldn't have the rim protection because Julius Randle is just not that type of defender. But I think offensively, you would still have a lot of guys that can create, and then defensively, you're still in a situation where you can do a lot of switching.
Yeah, I like this, and especially if you're giving Brunson a little rest. I think this lineup could rock and roll absolutely, and I absolutely like this. Meaning, I think they could do damage.
Yep. So, want to add a quick poll. Just wanted to let you guys. Just wanted to know which lineup you would like best. Which lineup do you prefer? And then we've got option one, which I'll put back on screen. So you've got Brunson, Quick, RJ, Obi, and Randall. Then you've got option two, which swaps out Obi for Quentin Grimes. Then you've got option three, which swaps Cam out for Quentin Grimes. And then you've got option four, which swaps Brunson out for Quentin Grimes. So I'm going to put it in chat and just wanted to get your opinion, see how you guys feel about it.
Where's the option so with Svi and Archie Diacono?
Well, you probably have this lineup more likely with Svi than Cam Reddish at this point. People to bucket you. At least V can play in garbage minutes.
You're so cool.
So which one would you prefer, Foxy, out of the four I showed you? If you were to
I think three.
Three? Let's put three back on screen. So it would be Brunson, Quick, Cam, RJ, and then Randall.
Yep.
That'd probably be the way I would go as well. Now, if this was probably a lineup that Tibbs should have explored last year, I think, before Brunson got here, just to see how they would play. There's no experimentation on this squad. Because everything's like so, we have to get it to the playoffs. We got to get it to the playoffs. They really don't experiment much.
No, Tibbs there is experimentation. You need an injury, though.
Which is crazy.
Which is crazy.
We don't allow iHeart to kind of run things a little bit with that second unit to see if his passing can open things up. We don't try creative lineups just to see if things would work. Like when we were dealing with Brunson out and RJ out, that was a good time to try and experiment with some lineups just to see what guys could give us. And Tibbs completely missed that opportunity. Now with Mitchell Robinson out, it's another opportunity to start to kind of tinker with the lineup, see what could work. And Tibbs is going to miss that opportunity again. So we'll see what ends up happening.
We'll definitely see. But unfortunately, opportunities, that was development time. That was the opportunity. Let let Cam show that he, there's so much wasted time. Like I said, either make him a quick deal and get rid of him, but him sitting there in game after game where we see that we could have used them, it just gets me angry at this team and this management.
Yep. Also, if you're watching part of the replay game and you want to let us know your opinion as well, let us know which option you would prefer as a small ball lineup. Once again, here's the option. Option 1, you've got Brunson, Quick, RJ, OB, Randle. Option 2, you've got Brunson, Quick, RJ, Grimes, Randle. And then option 3, you've got Brunson, Quick, RJ, Cam, Randle. And then option 4, you've got Quick, Grimes, RJ, Cam, and Julius Randle. Let us know your thoughts in the comments if you're watching part of the replay game. All right. Miguel P says Tibbs needs development. Man, you can't teach an old dog new tricks. Ain't that the saying?
Word.
Yeah, at this point, he is what he is.
He just had his 65th birthday last week. So, like you said, this is who he is.
Yep.
Rigid.
Hard-headed.
Stubborn. Keep going.
We can keep going, right? Keep going. They'll ban me from the garden. I don't want no part of that.
Oh, he's using Dolan's artificial intelligence. Get that guy keys.
The facial stuff. Yo, you saw what Shannon did over at it's not the Staples anymore, right? They changed the name.
Oh, yep. You know what? He's a football player, and he's an old dude. But I would not want to mess with Sharp, man. Basketball player and football players are two different things. Even at that advanced age, I think you can put some whoop ass on some of those guys.
Yep. Quick question. Louver HB says it's Quickley questionable tonight. He's actually been downgraded to out. So he's out for tonight's game. So, yeah, with that Shannon Sharp, I was like, yo, that's crazy. But for them to get into it back and forth, and then they allowed him back to his seat, I was like, oh, Dolan would never in a million years. He'd be spending the weekend in jail if that was over here in New York. I was like, wow, they let you get away with a lot in LA. I guess if you're famous.
Yeah. And Brandon Clark's a big guy, so yeah, but John Morant's father, he better be cool. Eat him out, spit him out.
Miguel's P says he would go with option 3. Let's close the poll and see what everyone says. And poll. So 37% went with option 1, 25% went with option 2, 25% went with option 3, and then we have 12% with option 4. Okay, so one wins it. And just to put on screen so everybody knows, this is the option with Obi Toppin at the 4.
Oh, I thought that was the chicken combo.
All right. So we're getting close to the trade deadlines. And Foxy, I wanted to ask you about a few players and which one you would pursue if they were to be available. So the first one we're going to talk about is guards. So out of these 3 players, which one would you pick? Gary Trent Jr., Alex Caruso, or Malik Beasley? And these are not if you can get them for quote unquote the cheap, but for a realistic trade offer.
Each one, just real quick, Gary Trent is 6'4" and change in his bare feet. He has 6'8" wingspan, and he takes 15 shots a game. We're gonna fit. Who shots is he's taking if we bring him in? Where are those 15 shots going to come from? Oddly enough, the one that makes the most sense and I don't think a lot of people think about it, is bringing in Caruso as the backup point guard. Because I think he plays almost, last time I checked, like 60% and change around, I don't know if almost 70% he plays at point guard. So, and we just talked about the issues with Deuce. So, in a TJ McConnell type of role, hustle, and he shoots 40% from 3, Caruso. So he's a good 3-point shooter.
A little bit this season, but you can.
I haven't looked at his thing, so if you have that, forgive me. I'm just going off of crazy old memories. So, but I'd look at him as an upgrade as a second team point guard, Caruso, and Beasley. I'd stay around. Again, he's a 6'4" guy. You posted earlier in the show that we really need wings, but if we had to go for any of those guys, I'd actually go for Caruso because I think his type of player, Trent needs touches. I just don't know where those touches would come from. He's a good player, good defensive player, but he's another Grimes. Literally, almost exactly the same stats, height, wingspan, that type of player. And I like Gary Trent, but so on the second team, like I said, where the shots are going to come from. He takes 15 shots a game, about, if my memory serves me right. So, but Caruso's my answer. Final answer.
Yeah, Jesco actually brought up Caruso to me, and I was against it at first, but he kind of convinced me. And for some of the same reasons you had mentioned, he can play that Tom Thibodeau defense, and that's going to be extremely important. And you look at Gary Trent, he's not really going to be that answer for us defensively out there on the wing. He probably encroach on some minutes for IQ. And you look at the reason the Trailblazers traded Gary Trent for Norman Powell was because they felt Gary Trent Jr. was undersized and couldn't really guard wing defenders as well as Norman Powell. And I think that's our biggest issue. We have enough guards, I think, right now, but we don't have that guy that's 6'8", with a solid wingspan that can really defend other players out there that have a similar archetype or similar build. So for me, I would most likely go with Alex Caruso if I had to pick between the two, Gary Trent Jr., Alex Caruso, and then Malik Beasley. Beasley, I think he really doesn't.
Your fan would love Caruso, man.
Say it again.
New York fans would love Caruso.
Yeah.
New York fans would love Caruso.
Hard. Yep, he would definitely play hard. He has that, I don't want to say grit and grind because that's Memphis's thing, but he definitely has that hard attitude. He's not afraid of the moment. It would be interesting too, seeing that Brunson dropped him, how that would go.
Yeah, man, he was on skates.
Had that man on skates, but I'm gonna put it in chat, see what everybody else thinks, and which guard the Knicks should target if they do go after a guard. So I think Foxy and I are both in agreement. We would go with Alex Caruso. We just want to see what SV Nation believes.
Stephadon, thanks for the clarification. I knew it was one of those guys, but he said it was Dylan Brooks, not Brandon Clark. So thank you, sir.
Yeah.
Hope all is well.
Dylan Brooks and then Steven Adams got involved. He stepped up for his teammate.
Yo, yeah, it looked like Man Mountain Dean. It's like, that's a big guy. One thing is the guys you're yelling at, Steven Adams, is crazy. You don't want any part of that, Sharp.
Yeah, the fact that whole situation went down was kind of crazy to me, honestly.
Yeah.
All right, so now, Foxy, I want to ask you, we'll move from guards and now we'll go to wings. Out of these three wings, which one would you want the Knicks to pursue for reasonable deals? So
the Parmesan garlic.
Say one more time.
The Parmesan garlic wings. Sorry, I'm crazy.
It's all good. It's all good.
Pain meds.
So the first wing is going to be Jay Crowder. You would think he'd be fairly cheap to acquire, seeing that he's not even playing for the Suns. Another interesting one would be Sadiq Bey from Detroit, seeing what it would cost to get him. And then another one would be a guy that we were supposed to face tonight, but he's out with an injury, and that would be OG Anunoby. So out of those three, which one would you target if the Knicks were looking to make a deal?
Bey. I like putting the Villanova Sadiq Bey. I like getting those Villanova boys back together. He can shoot the three. He doesn't shoot the three as elite as I like, but and it comes down to cost. I think OG Ujiri would be asking two unprotected number ones for him, and like we said, he's always out. He has an ankle now. He had a thing a few weeks ago. Prior to that, he just he's their version of Mitchell Robinson. He's always got a nagging injury. And so I think that's my answer.
Yeah. Me personally, in terms of players and which one would be a better fit or a better player to build a championship contender around, I would probably go with OG Anunoby. I like what he can do as a defender. And, the three can be inconsistent at times, but he can still knock it down and keep teams honest. But when you look at what the Raptors might want for him, I'd have to agree with you. It'd be too much to invest in a trade for him. So that's why I'd have to go with Sadiq Bey as well, because he can create for himself. He can also, knock down the three, which, it can be inconsistent at times. The same with OG. But we saw against us, he was able to knock down the three pretty efficiently, even though it wasn't a losing performance. So Sadiq Bey can play defense, can be that 3-and-D, and then also he can put the ball on the floor, similar to what we can get from Quentin Grimes, except now he's in a larger package. Pause.
Yeah, exactly. Pause. I don't think if OG would take well to playing on a second team, but I don't think Sadiq would have issues, with the lineup and coming in, at the three and other positions. So, yeah. And like I said, I think a breath of fresh air, him getting off Detroit, coming to his Villanova brother with Jalen, and he'd be a nice addition. But again, it's all about value. What could we get? Trade him for Obi, I'll do it.
What would you think it would cost in order to make that deal go through?
Great question. I don't know. What do you think, SV Nation? I think obviously it's two different realms, OG and Sadiq Bey. What they'd ask, meaning of value, I don't think it's anywhere near what OG would be at. We would have to pay for OG, so maybe a first round pick. So maybe one of our ones in the 19-20 range. Dallas's pick. I don't know. And if it was Dallas's pick, I'd do that in a second, because there's not a kid in this draft that's going to be better than OG or especially Sadiq Bey at that, over the next several years that is going to be better than him. So I'd absolutely go that route to get a little bit better at the wing position. Although the guy that I like that I'd go after is Najee Marshall on New Orleans. A guy that is not going to be asking for first team points. He has a $1.9 million contract. We talked about all the other threes they have with Trey and Ingram and Dyson Dixon, etc. Herb Jones. So they can't pay everyone on that team. He's a real pit bull. I mean, dog on defense, 6'7", 7+ wingspan that we can get on the cheaps. So you don't want a guy that's going to either you get a star, you get a Trey Murphy, you get a Mikal Bridges type of player, or you get a player that's going to be good to come in as a secondary player. So I don't think OG would mean first team, would mean RJ to the 2, which means Grimes goes to the second team.
I would think to get a guy like Sadiq, it might cost Cam if the money matches, and then a first, most likely. Probably gets the deal done, because then they get to recoup their first round pick for Sadiq Bey and try again. And also they get a guy in Cam Reddish who, for the second half of the season, they can put out there and see if he's a long-term option for them.
Yeah. What's your thoughts on Killian Hayes?
Not a big fan. Jump shot is inconsistent at times. I mean, he has some moments and some spurts, but defensively, I don't think he's that great. And, I think he'll probably not get a second contract from Detroit.
Yeah. The only reason I asked, I saw some people speculating that it would be a Sadiq Killian Hayes trade to the Knicks. And I was like,
the both of them?
Yeah, that for monies and stuff like that we'd bring both of those guys over.
And then where would Killian get minutes? That'd be another lefty. We'd have 4.
Another lefty, but he'd be a second. He'd be a second team guy. He wouldn't be, he'd be the second team point guard.
Okay. I'm not a big fan of Killian, honestly. I mean, if it doesn't cost too much and it's just us trying to see if it'll work out, and Tibbs is okay with it, then I'd be willing to see how it works out, because I like Bey, and to bring him over would be something I'd be open to. But Hayes, not necessarily the biggest fan.
Ooh. I feel the same way. No, okay. I feel the same as you. Although he toasted one-on-one Grimes and a couple of guys one of the last games, posted him up. So he's showing some moves, but it was strictly as a second team guy. But and like you said, I don't know if Rokas will ever come here, so I don't know if they're thinking about maybe setting up, the roster with a real second team point guard.
Yeah, he's not showing up as long as Tibbs is here. That's for sure. Anthony R says, "Hey chat, Foxy Keys. The people who have spoken is Caruso. Caruso did win that poll." And I put another one in the chat now. This time we're asking about the wings, which one the Knicks should target if you were the GM. OG Anunoby, Sadiq Bey, or Jay Crowder. Right now, OG Anunoby is in the lead at 38%. So now, Foxy, I want to ask you about some centers. The three centers, I want you to decide which one you would target. It's going to be Miles Turner, who you know is going to take a decent amount of capital in order to acquire. Kelly Olynyk, who would be much cheaper and offer some versatility to the center position, something that we are in desperate need of right now offensively at that position. And then Serge Ibaka, who's another budget option at that center position, and who also has a jump shot and would force teams to be, to respect it at least. Which one of those three would you choose?
I wouldn't do Miles, and you touched on this with George on the pregame you did that with today's NBA, you can't put all that money in the three. That if you get Miles and you already have Mitch here, that's way too much allocated to the five position in today's NBA. So unless they give up Mitch to get Miles, that's just too much money there. I think Serge is washed. I don't think there's much left in the tank. So I think it comes down to Kelly. If you can get him for value, like you said, he brings a new dimension. He brings the stretch that iHeart doesn't. So he could be a viable, band-aid until Mitch comes back.
Yeah. During our discussion, I went with Olynyk as well. He can stretch the court, can knock down the three. I'm not sure what Ibaka can really give us. You look at the team he's being traded from. He's being traded from a contender, and he can't really give them much of anything. So what would we expect to get from him if we do make a move? So for me, I'd be open to it if it's the only thing that's available at the center position, but it's not something that I would be actively pursuing. If it falls in our lap, then it falls in our lap. And same thing, like I mentioned with Miles Turner, to have that much money allocated to the center position, I think that would leave us with a flawed roster. And also, I'm not sure how Mitch would feel if we go give him a big contract, say he's the piece, he's our starter for the foreseeable future, and then 6-7 months later we go and we trade for his replacement. And then I also don't see Turner being traded for and then him coming off the bench. So for me, it would be way too complicated unless you're going to include Mitchell Robinson in the deal for Turner. And I'm not sure the Pacers would be open to that, seeing that Mitchell Robinson is most likely not going to return until after the trade deadline. So me, I would go with Olynyk.
Yeah. A quick shout out. I see my friend Anthony R in the chat. Anthony's birthday was yesterday. So chat, do me a favor, reach out to my friend Anthony, wish him a happy birthday. And at the same time, Anthony, please send my regards to Danette. Great show yesterday and happy birthday.
Salute. Happy birthday. Thank you for tuning in. All right. So I put the question or the poll in chat. Just to let you guys know how some of the other polls ended. We have this one, which guard should the Knicks target? So 75% said Alex Caruso, 25% said Gary Trent Jr., and nobody wanted us to pursue Malik Beasley. Poor him.
Yeah, he's had some issues in the past too. From a character perspective.
Yep. And then the second question: which wing should the Knicks target? 50% says Sadiq Bey, 30% said OG Anunoby, and then 20% said Jay Crowder. And right now, in the most recent poll, we've got Kelly Olynyk winning with 67% of the vote. So make sure you let your voice be heard by participating in the poll. That way we can see exactly what SV Nation thinks about which center we should pursue. Miguel P says, I would move Mitch for Miles. I'm not sure if I would make that move. I would rather keep Mitch. You see how important he is to this team defensively. And that's not to say, another elite center or another good center couldn't come in and give comparable results. But I would rather have that changeup at the center position with the second unit, especially seeing that Mitch has been so dominant defensively for us, and been our defensive anchor, and played so well, I think, to start the season. So me personally, I would go after a stretch big, or a big man that has a little bit more offensively to come off the bench, as opposed to him being part of that starting unit. Because even if you do get a center with, that's more versatile offensively, you'd have to get someone that's not really looking for a lot of touches. I think if Turner comes over, he's going to want to be fed the ball. And you trade Mitchell Robinson, a guy who doesn't really need the ball too much, bring in a guy like Miles Turner, and you add him to a starting lineup that has Jalen Brunson, Julius Randle, and RJ Barrett. I don't think he's going to be too thrilled about it. And you now also have to trade for him and then pay him. So to me, I don't think Miles Turner would be a great player for us to pursue right now, especially with the way the roster is set up.
Yeah, all the way.
So right now, Olynyk still leading with 56% of the votes. Make sure you guys get your votes in. We'll be wrapping up shortly. The game is about to start, right? What is it, 6 o'clock? Yeah, 6 o'clock. Yep. Game about to start. Foxy, thank you for co-hosting with me as always. Really appreciate it. I know you're not feeling great, but you still were able to co-host with me, so I greatly appreciate you for that.
I love you, and I love the SV Nation. So yeah, I'm hurting a little, so I'll power through it. But folks, we could have our show at the normal time, 6 next week. So finally, we're not getting stepped on, so we can go back to our home around 6:30 around next Sunday. So we're looking forward to it, and we'll see. God willing, the Knicks can pull out a couple of wins this week. We love our Knicks, so hopefully they can do some. Fingers crossed, man.
I mean, it's a tough schedule too, because we got Toronto tonight, then we've got Cleveland on Tuesday, we've got Boston on Thursday, and then we've got the Nets on not prime time per se, but on national TV at 5:30. I mean, luckily for us, KD won't be available, but still should be a pretty interesting matchup. Both teams normally step up for those games, seeing it's the inner city rivalry, quote unquote.
I think Kyrie went off a 48 the other night.
Yep. So we'll see how it goes. Let me see. Before we wrap up, let me close out this vote. See what we got going on. So right now, end of the vote, Kelly Olynyk ended up winning. He had 50% of the vote. Miles Turner had 40% of the vote, and then Serge Ibaka rounded out the three with 10% of the vote. So a lot of people would prefer Kelly Olynyk out of those three options, and Foxy and I would definitely agree with you guys there. All right, so with that being said, I want to thank you guys once again for tuning in. We'll be back again next Sunday, 6 p.m. Make sure you guys are tuned in and have notifications set to all, and make sure you guys are subscribed. That way you guys are notified when we do go live. Now, Foxy, anything you want to say before we sign off?
No, just go Knicks go. It's going to be tough with that, but hopefully we can play some team basketball and pull out some surprise wins over the next few games. Because if we don't, we're going to blink and have a 6-game losing streak.
Yeah, definitely could be a tough slide ahead. But with no OG, maybe the Knicks can be able to break this losing streak with a W today. Fingers crossed. I mean, we're not going to have Emmanuel Quickley. We're not going to have Mitch, so it'll definitely be tough. But we'll see. We'll see what type of energy we come out to start the game. That'll definitely tell us a lot.
And RJ called out Scotty Barnes, so that'll be interesting to see tonight.
Yep. Oh, yeah, we didn't even get to Scotty Barnes trying to violate our guy Grimes. About you, not him.
Yeah, with his finger, man.
Let's hopefully we kick their ass, because Scotty Barnes was a little too confident, a little too cocky toward the end of that game. So
yeah,
we get this dub.
Patrick Beverly would have bit his finger off.
All right, thank you guys for tuning in. Once again, I'm Keith, host of Sports 5 TV. That's my co-host, Stephen Fox, and we'll be back next Sunday. We're out.
Love you.
Yeah, I told you. I'm about to put on a suit and tie. Look like Jerome or something with that mirror. Cause when you look good, you ain't gotta worry about nobody telling you how you look. So never mind what the haters say. They wanna hate what they love in the franchise. What Spike said is the orange with the blue skies. There's no city more famous with the nightlife. We celebrate feeling good, it's the Knicks life. They wanna hate what they love in the franchise. What Spike said is the orange with the blue skies. There's no city more famous with the nightlife. We celebrate feeling good, it's the Knicks life.